Okay, let's unpack this. You know that feeling, right? When someone asks you a really simple question, something you definitely know, like, what'd you do this weekend?
Mhm.
And boom, your brain just feels like, I don't know, tangled yarn.
Oh, yeah, totally.
You're searching for words, the moment kind of slips by, and then maybe an hour later, the perfect answer just pops into your head. Way too late.
Happens to the best of us.
I actually had a moment like that this morning, a bit of a brain freeze, got me thinking. So for this deep dive, we're really zeroing in on, well, the skill of thinking fast and speaking smart in conversations.
It's the crucial skill.
And look, if you're learning English, we get it. This can feel like a much bigger hurdle, maybe like climbing a mountain while others seem to be just skiing down.
Definitely an extra challenge there.
But the cool thing is, and this is important, it's not really about having some kind of innate quick wit. It's more like a muscle,
Mhm.
something you can actually train.
Absolutely. It's learnable.
So today, we're going to explore why this matters so much, what sort of mental roadblocks tend to trip us up,
Mhm.
and most importantly, some really practical, actionable strategies to get those mental gears turning a bit faster.
Good stuff.
And we've also put together a free PDF for you. It's got exercises, key takeaways, things to really help you practice this stuff.
Very helpful.
Plus, a bit later, we'll have Charlotte breaking down some useful vocabulary from our chat.
Great.
So yeah, let's dive right in. Why is thinking quickly in a conversation actually? Well, why is it so important?
That really is the key question to start with, isn't it? Think about a job interview scenario.
Okay.
You get asked about a challenge you overcame. You've got a brilliant example in mind, but the words just, they aren't coming out smoothly.
Yeah, a painful pause.
Exactly. That hesitation, that, visible struggle to get your thoughts out, it can unfortunately signal uncertainty, maybe even a lack of confidence.
Even if you totally know your stuff.
Precisely.
Yeah,
Even if you have all the skills and experience, it's subtle, but it's powerful, that perception.
absolutely. And it's not just how others see you, right? It affects how you feel inside too.
Mm-hmm.
When you manage to get your thoughts out clearly and like pretty quickly, it actually boosts your own feeling of confidence. It's like, yeah, I handled that.
Yeah.
After you nail a tough question, a real confidence builder.
Exactly. And there's solid research backing this up. You see studies like those mentioned in the Harvard Business Review, they consistently show that people who communicate clearly and confidently, they're seen as more credible, more influential.
Right.
So being able to think on your feet directly impacts how people judge your competence, maybe even your leadership potential. It's fascinating how fluency affects both external perception and internal self-belief.
Okay, but there's this common idea, isn't there? That if you talk really fast, you must be thinking fast, you must be super smart. Let's clear that up. That's not really it, is it?
No, not at all. That's a misconception. Clarity and conciseness, much more valuable than just speed.
Okay.
Think of it like planning a road trip. You
Yeah.
don't need to floor it to get there efficiently. What matters is knowing the best route, the most direct way.
Ah, good analogy.
Yeah. So expressing ideas clearly, directly, that saves time and it gets your message across way better than just, rushing through a jumble of words. It's about navigating the conversation effectively, not just speeding through it.
That makes sense.
Mm.
And it's so crucial to remember feeling fluent, having words flow easily.
Hmm.
That doesn't just happen instantly.
No.
It's a process, right? Like learning guitar or, I don't know, tennis. It takes practice,
Yeah,
consistent practice over time.
exactly right. So, okay, we've kind of established why this skill matters. Now, maybe let's dig into some of the things that, well, slow us down when we're trying to have these quick, smart conversations.
Yeah, what gets in the way? First one, I think, is something loads of us do, overthinking.
Definitely.
That thing where you try to write the perfect script in your head before you even say anything, but like, writing an important email,
Uh-huh.
you spend ages tweaking sentences, agonizing over the phrasing, and then you finally hit send. Well, in a conversation, by the time you've mentally perfected your response, the moment's usually gone. The chat's moved on.
Yeah, the opportunity is missed. Another big one is just the fear of making mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
I really remember this from when I was learning Italian. I was so worried about sounding silly that I just hesitate to stumble over words.
Right.
But the truth is, making mistakes is, well, it's just part of learning anything, isn't it? Especially language. That's actually how you figure out where you need to improve.
Absolutely. They're learning opportunities.
Hmm.
Then there are those moments that feel almost physical, mental blocks.
Yes, the freeze.
That sudden blankness when you're put on the spot, it's maddening. Like someone asks, what's your favorite book? Simple enough, right?
Yeah.
But suddenly you can't think of a single title, even though your shelves are full.
Mm.
It's like your brain just wiped itself clean.
Yeah, the mental filing cabinet just slams shut. And of course, we have to acknowledge the language barrier itself. For anyone speaking English as a second or third language, finding the right word, the right grammar, it just takes a bit more processing time. It's an extra mental step, and that can definitely slow things down.
For sure. But, like we said earlier, the good news is there are things we can actually do. Tangible strategies to, work around these hurdles and get better at thinking faster.
Right. There are techniques.
So let's start with the first big one, staying calm under pressure. This feels fundamental because when we get anxious or stressed, that whole fight or flight thing kicks in,
Mm,
which ironically makes it harder to think clearly.
exactly. Think about like a quiz show contestant.
Okay.
They absolutely know the answer. You can see it.
Hmm.
But the pressure, the lights, the clock, it makes them panic and maybe blurt out something random. The info's in there, but stress blocks the access.
I can totally relate to that pressure messing with your brain. I remember giving this presentation once. I was so focused on not messing up, not making any mistakes,
Yeah.
that my mind just went completely blank
Yeah.
mid-sentence. I could feel my heart pounding, and all my notes just seemed to vanish from my head.
Oh, that's such a common, awful feeling. So what helped you in that moment? Did anything work?
It sounds ridiculously simple, but honestly, just taking a deep breath, like a really conscious deep breath,
Right.
that little pause, it seemed to reset things. Let me calm down enough to get back on track. Instead of spiraling, I slowed down my talking and just focused on getting one point out at a time.
That's a fantastic practical tip. When we consciously calm ourselves down, we basically allow our prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of our brain, to come back online.
Okay.
So a really simple but super effective trick is before you answer a question, especially if you feel put on the spot, just take one slow, deliberate breath. It breaks that immediate panic cycle, gives you that vital second to collect yourself. It's amazing how that small physical action impacts our thinking under stress.
Great advice. Okay, strategy number 2, anticipating responses. This is about being a bit more strategic, trying to predict where a conversation might go.
Exactly. Think about chess players. They aren't just reacting to the last move, right? They're thinking several moves ahead. We actually do this sort of thing all the time in daily life, often without even realizing it. You can often guess what someone's about to say next.
It's like walking into your usual coffee place.
Yeah,
You pretty much know the first thing they'll ask is, what can I get for you?
right. Yeah, exactly.
And because you expect it, you don't freeze. You're ready with your order. Latte, please.
Right. So the idea is to consciously apply that same principle more broadly. If you've got a job interview coming up, spend a little time thinking, okay, what questions are they likely to ask?
Preparing mentally.
Yeah. Or if you're going to a party, meeting new people, maybe think of a couple of easy opening questions or common topics. Even just thinking about standard follow-ups helps.
And it's not just for formal stuff, is it? Even in casual chats, you can often predict the flow. Someone asks, how's your weekend? You probably already got a few highlights ready in your head, or at least a general idea.
Precisely. The more you sort of proactively think about potential conversation paths and have some rough ideas ready, the less likely you are to be totally caught off guard, struggling for words. That anticipation builds a sort of mental runway for a smoother takeoff.
Okay, but even with preparation, sometimes your brain just needs an extra second, right? Which brings us to the next useful technique, using time fillers strategically.
Ah, yes, fillers. These little verbal pauses, they can be incredibly helpful. They bridge the silence and give your brain that crucial bit of extra processing time.
Right,
The key is using them purposefully, naturally.
totally. So someone asks a question, your mind lags for a beat instead of just silence.
Which can feel awkward.
Yeah, you can say something, that's a really interesting question. Or, okay, let me think about that for a second. It signals you're engaged. You heard them.
Exactly. These little phrases show you're processing, not just lost. I find myself using them quite a bit, actually, especially if I'm trying to recall a specific name or detail. Keeps the conversation flowing more smoothly.
Oh, I do that constantly, especially with names. Instead of that deer in headlights look when a name escapes me, I might say, yes, I know who you mean. You were at...
Yeah.
And that little gap often gives my memory the nudge it needs.
Yeah. Other good ones are things like, well, it really depends on, or I see what you're getting at. They buy you time and make you sound more considered, more engaged.
Hmm.
The crucial thing here is the intent behind the filler. It's buying processing time, not just rambling.
The key, though, is making them sound natural, right?
Yeah.
If you suddenly start littering your speech with loads of ums and ahs, it can backfire, make you sound hesitant.
Definitely.
The goal is to weave them in smoothly, keep the rhythm going while your brain catches up.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about another strategy I really like for creating that mental space, paraphrasing.
Oh, me too. Love this one. So paraphrasing is basically just restating what someone else said, but in your own words.
Right.
Seems simple, but wow, it can be effective for buying yourself thinking time.
It really can. So, say someone asks, what are your initial thoughts on the new marketing plan?
Okay.
Instead of feeling pressure for an instant, brilliant analysis, you could say something like, okay, so the new marketing plan. You're asking for my first impressions. Well, looking at it initially, it seems like quite a bold approach.
Right. That gives you a moment to gather your thoughts, plus it confirms you understood the question correctly. Clarify and collect all at once.
It's surprisingly effective. I find it really useful when someone asks about something complex, something with lots of parts. Repeating the core of their question helps me frame my own answer better.
And it must be super helpful in tricky conversations too, right? If someone says something a bit unclear or you're not quite sure what they mean,
Exactly.
paraphrasing lets you check your understanding before you jump in with your own opinion. So if I understand correctly, you're saying.
Precisely. And there's a huge added bonus. It really shows the other person you're listening, like actively listening and trying to understand them.
Yeah, it makes them feel heard.
It builds rapport, makes the whole conversation more collaborative. You're not just waiting to talk, you're engaging with what they said.
Okay, next strategy. This one's about the actual shape of our thoughts and how we say them. Thinking in simple structures.
Yes, this is so important for clear communication, especially when you need to respond quickly. A lot of people get bogged down trying to build these really complex, perfect sentences in their heads first.
Right, like mini essays.
Yeah, but honestly, simple, clear communication almost always beats complex and confusing language. Every time.
Makes sense.
Mm.
Think about explaining something complicated to, say, a 5-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't use big words or super long sentences, would you? You'd break it down. Simple, direct words. And that principle works surprisingly well in grown-up conversations, too. People value clarity.
They really do. If you consciously try to structure your thoughts in simpler patterns, like, I think this because, or my take on this is, it makes it much easier for others to follow you, and it actually reduces the mental effort for you while you're speaking.
And it takes the pressure off, doesn't it? The pressure to sound incredibly smart or, overly academic. Just focus on getting the message across clearly. Let the idea shine, not the fancy sentence structure.
Well said. Okay, now let's shift to a skill that's maybe underestimated when we talk about quick thinking, but it's absolutely vital: active listening.
Oh, such a good point. People often think quick thinking is all about how fast you can talk, but listening well. That's the foundation, isn't it? It's the input you need for good output.
Absolutely. When you really listen, not just wait for your turn to speak, but actually tune in, you pick up on keywords, tone of voice, the whole context.
Mm-hmm.
All that data helps your brain process faster and come up with a response that's actually relevant. It's about catching the nuances, not just the surface words.
It's kind of like watching a movie with subtitles, maybe. If you're only half listening, you miss stuff. But if you're really engaged, reading the subtitles of their tone and emphasis, you get the picture much faster.
I like that analogy. And another thing, when you listen actively, you don't feel like you have to invent something totally new every time you speak.
Right.
You can build directly on what the other person just said. It creates a much more natural conversational flow. You're basically following the path they laid down instead of trying to cut a new one with every sentence.
Exactly. By truly taking in what they said, you're naturally positioned to respond in a way that connects, rather than feeling like you have to pull some random new topic out of thin air.
Right. Okay, and finally, let's touch on something that's actually quite fun. A great way to train your brain for faster responses: practicing improvisation.
Yes, improv. It's all about
Yeah.
just responding in the moment,
Yeah.
right? Without overthinking or censoring yourself too much.
Mm-hmm.
It's like being in a play with no script. You just have to react to whatever your scene partner gives you.
Exactly. Think of it as like mental agility training. There's no pause button, you just have to roll with it. And the great thing is, you can practice this with really simple, even playful exercises. It strengthens those quick response pathways in the brain.
Okay, like what? Give us an example.
Well, a classic one is word association. Simple but effective. If I say, oh, ocean,
Waves,
right, and if I say library,
books, or quiet.
see? No time to overthink, you just react with the first related thing that pops into your head. It trains your brain to make those connections faster, which is super useful in a real conversation.
Cool. What else?
Another good one is storytelling. Set a timer, maybe just 30 seconds, and try to tell a mini story based on a random word someone throws at you.
Okay.
The main thing is just to keep talking. Don't stop to edit or judge yourself. Just generate the story, keep the words flowing. It's about real-time creation.
I love that. And the great thing about these improv games is, well, like any skill, the more you do it, the better you get, the more comfortable you feel thinking on your feet. Takes the pressure off being perfect and just encourages that quick, creative response.
Exactly. Quick thinking isn't some magic talent you're born with or not. It really is a skill. And like any skill, you can build it, strengthen it with practice, and by using these kinds of strategies consciously.
Wow, yeah, we've covered a lot of really useful ground today.
Oh.
From those practical things like staying calm and using fillers,
Mm-hmm.
to thinking ahead with anticipation, using paraphrasing to buy time, keeping structure simple, and the absolute importance of listening,
Yeah, active listening is key.
and even playing around with improv. These are all real, tangible things you can do to get better at thinking quickly and speaking effectively, in any conversation, really.
Indeed. And to help you build your vocabulary around this, we've got Charlotte ready with a section focusing on some of the useful intermediate words and phrases we've used today.
Perfect. Let's hand over to Charlotte for that.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Yes, throughout this deep dive, some really useful vocabulary came up. Words that can help you express these ideas more precisely. Things like stammering, that's speaking with pauses or repeated sounds, maybe from nerves.
Right.
Then hesitation, just a pause before speaking, often showing you're unsure. Misconception, that's an idea that's wrong because it's based on bad info.
Uh-huh.
Analogy, comparing two things to explain something. Inherent, meaning something is a natural built-in quality. Retrieve, like getting information back from your memory.
Okay.
Proactively, taking action before something happens, not just reacting. Multifaceted, meaning something has many sides or aspects. Ambiguous, when something's unclear or could mean more than one thing.
Got it.
And the phrase bogged down, meaning getting stuck or overwhelmed by details. So, for example, nervousness might cause someone to stammer. A brief hesitation can show doubt. It's a common misconception that talking fast means you're smart. We use the driving analogy for clear communication. Confidence can feel inherent when you communicate well. Stress makes it hard to retrieve facts. It's good to plan proactively. A problem can be complex or multifaceted. Avoid making ambiguous statements. And try not to get bogged down searching for the absolute perfect word.
Great examples.
Definitely try using some of these yourself. And remember that free PDF has more examples in practice. Okay, back to you both.
Thanks so much, Charlotte. That's super helpful. Really makes those words stick.
Absolutely. And just to wrap up, remember this journey of getting better at thinking quickly. It's not really about reaching some impossible standard of perfection.
No.
It's more about feeling prepared, building their underlying confidence in your ability to handle conversations, whatever comes up.
Yeah, exactly. So keep trying these strategies out. Keep practicing. With a bit of effort, experimenting, you'll definitely find yourself thinking faster, responding more thoughtfully, and just feeling more confident when you speak.
That's the goal. Keep practicing, keep learning, and keep leaping forward on your English language journey.